At the beginning of the film, we see a couple on vacation at a beach house. The young man is named Randall, and his girlfriend is Emily from their conversation. It's revealed that the house belongs to Randall's father. So Randall invited Emily to this place for a private getaway upon arrival. They head upstairs, and afterwards, Emily asks to use the downstairs bathroom briefly once done. Emily discovers a lot of medication behind the bathroom mirror. Curious about the house, Emily starts exploring the kitchen from what Emily sees in the kitchen. It becomes clear that the house isn't truly empty. While looking around, someone suddenly enters the house, causing Emily to hide. She sneaks around to avoid being seen by the mysterious person who is sitting at the dining table, doing something, feeling scared. Emily runs upstairs to tell Randall. Randall is also puzzled about the presence of another person in the house. They both go down to check the situation, but the mysterious person is no longer at the table. It turns out the person is hiding and appears frightened. Randall immediately asks the woman what she is doing in the house. Hearing Randall's question, the woman explains that her friend told her no one would be coming here. It turns out her friend is Randall's father. The woman, who introduces herself as Jane, claims she has been friends with Randall's father for a long time, shortly after a man named Mitch, who is Jane's husband, arrives. Mitch says he has been a work friend of Randall's father for 20 years. Eventually, the four of them introduce themselves and plan a barbecue for that night. In the evening, they all sit at the dining table drinking and chatting. They exchange thoughts and have conversations afterwards. They move to the house's balcony to continue their talks, not long after strange particles start blowing in the wind and sticking to the trees. Emily, understanding what's happening, explains that these are microbes being carried by the wind. Jane, who has never seen this before, becomes interested and heads down to inspect the trees, despite being intoxicated after letting Jane in. Randall, who was already half drunk, planned to play music inside the house. Jane was getting ready to leave the house. Meanwhile, Mitch and Emily talked until Mitch became curious and asked what Jane was doing down there. Emily looked into the house and found Randall completely out of it. Panicking, Mitch went to find Jane. Meanwhile, Jane wandered toward the trees and became fascinated by the glowing microbes. She touched the microbes innocently, and several of them stuck to her palm. Jane began to feel short of breath and started coughing inside the house. Only Randall and Emily were heavily intoxicated. Emily noticed a foul smell coming from outside. As Emily tried to go out, she saw a thick fog and decided to stay indoors. The foul odor made Emily feel even more nauseous until she fainted. Emily regained consciousness and became aware of the house's dark condition shortly after she heard Jane vomiting in the bathroom. When Emily approached the bathroom, Mitch closed the door the next morning. Emily woke up in a room with Randall. Emily recounted that the previous night was chaotic. Jane had been vomiting, and Mitch did not seem happy after that. Emily went downstairs and saw Jane sitting at the dining table. Emily called out to Jane while walking towards her. But Jane didn't respond. As Emily got closer, she noticed that Jane's face was peeling and drier than usual. Emily asked about her condition and Mitch's whereabouts. Hearing the question, Jane seemed confused and had difficulty speaking and walking. Jane then walked upstairs and past Randall. Randall greeted Jane, but she didn't respond. The situation seemed increasingly strange since the events of the previous night. They then went to look for Mitch and called out his name loudly. But Mitch did not appear. Finally, they lay down on the beach waiting for Mitch to arrive. As evening approached, Randall suddenly experienced severe stomach pain and told Emily he would return to the house to use the bathroom, while Emily was lying down. Mitch suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Mitch explained that he cared deeply for Jane and said that you always care for those you love until they are no longer normal. Emily asked Mitch about Jane's condition the previous night, but Mitch did not answer Emily's question and instead said he would swim in the beautiful ocean. Mitch then walked into the sea to swim, but as she watched, Mitch continued to walk deeper into the water until he was no longer visible. It seemed like Mitch deliberately drowned himself elsewhere. Randall, who had just finished using the bathroom, tried to wash his hands, but the water coming out of the faucet was murky and dirty. As he exited the bathroom, Randall heard a thumping noise from upstairs. Randall assumed it was Mitch doing something. He then went upstairs and listened outside the room, curious. Randall tried to enter the room. Meanwhile, Emily continued to shout for Mitch, who had submerged himself in the sea unknowingly. Emily stepped on something strange at the beach's edge. The creature wriggled, and when Emily stepped on it, her foot was bitten. Leaving it red upon closer inspection, the creature seemed to be a parasite that could harm humans. Consequently, Emily's right foot was punctured. Emily could only scream for Randall while dragging her foot back into the house. The beach was littered with parasites. Emily's foot worsened as the parasite had entered her foot. She then poured vinegar on her foot. Though it was clearly very painful for her, she used a knife and tweezers to remove the parasite from her foot. The parasites looked like worms or caterpillars. Emily then bandaged her foot and took some medicine from behind the mirror in the bathroom. She also changed her clothes and put on shoes to protect her feet. Suddenly, Emily saw Randall coming out of a room and dragging himself on the floor behind Emily Jane, who had turned into a zombie-like state. Appeared Randall and Emily struggling to walk, tried to escape from Jane to prevent Jane from getting out. Emily tied the door handle with a hose. They then tried to escape using the car, but unfortunately, the car keys were still in the upstairs room. Quickly, Emily and Randall walked away from the house until they found another house to seek help. But it was also empty and uninhabited. Shortly after, an elderly man who had also turned into a zombie-like state approached them. They immediately fled the house. The entire residential area was covered in a thick fog, making it difficult for Randall and Emily to breathe. They found a police car parked nearby. Emily got into the car and tried the police radio. She stated that she needed help in the coastal area. Fortunately, the police headquarters responded to Emily's call for help. However, the officer warned that the area was very dangerous because everyone there had been infected. The officer advised Emily to enter a house close to the windows and avoid inhaling the fog. The police then said that the mists appearing were not actually mist. Emily asked, if it's not mist, then what is it? But the communication was suddenly cut off hearing this. Emily immediately got out of the car and saw Randall collapsed on the ground. Emily then helped Randall to a nearby house to seek help. Emily broke one of the house windows and they both entered one after the other inside. They checked the condition of the house. Randall found a telephone, but it was not working. Emily found some vinegar and gave it to Randall to drink. Randall then asked Emily to turn on the TV. When the TV was turned on, it only displayed an emergency message urging residents to evacuate Emily. Becoming more curious, turned on the radio. The broadcast reported about microbes living in rocks releasing bacteria that evaporated into the air. The bacteria were extremely dangerous as they could potentially wipe out the human population. Upon hearing this, Emily quickly sealed all the gaps in the house with duct tape. Emily then discovered a basement and went down, finding 2 oxygen tanks without hesitation. She inhaled the oxygen from the tank. Meanwhile, Randall's condition worsened, and he started to expel mucus from his mouth. The mucus contained parasites, similar to those Emily had stepped on earlier. Randall's eyes turned white, like Jan's. Emily was still in the basement, looking for other items, and when she turned on the light, she saw a man covered in mucus and parasites. There was also a strange figure above the man, looking at Emily without a second thought. Emily rushed upstairs, taking the oxygen tank with her when Emily approached Randall. She was shocked to see that he had turned into a zombie-like state. Quickly, she hit Randall with the oxygen tank. While in shock and confusion, Emily noticed a car key under her cabinet. She grabbed the key and got into the car with the oxygen tank, escaping the area. However, due to the thick fog, Emily had difficulty seeing the road and eventually crashed into a tree. Emily regained consciousness and exited the car, but the thickening fog made it hard for her to breathe. In panic, Emily found a water hole and immediately submerged herself in it. The next morning, it was revealed that the water hole was a small lake near the beach, and Emily was seen stranded on the beach. Alone. By now, Emily had been infected and had transformed into a zombie-like state. In the final scene, Emily is heard repeating, "Don't be scared," before disappearing into the ocean, and the film ends. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, because by subscribing, you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.